You said sorry today before you finished your first sentence. You said sorry when someone bumped into you. You said sorry for sending a message that was entirely reasonable to send. You said sorry for taking up a parking space, for asking a question in a meeting, for having an opinion that someone else disagreed with. You said sorry so many times before noon that the word has become a kind of punctuation, a comma you insert between yourself and the world, a toll you pay before you are allowed to speak. And here is the thing. You know it is too much. Some part of you has always known. You have probably been told. People have laughed about it, gently, the way people laugh when they are also a little concerned. They say, "You do not need to apologize for that." And you say sorry. And then you both notice what just happened, and you smile, and the moment passes, and nothing changes, because the apology was not a choice. It arrived before you had a chance to choose anything. That is the part worth examining. Not the apology itself, but the speed of it, the automaticity, the way it moves faster than thought, faster than assessment, faster than any actual determination of whether you did something wrong. Because when something moves that fast, it is not a decision, it is a reflex. And reflexes do not come from nowhere. They are trained. They are the residue of an environment that, at some point, taught your nervous system that your presence in the world was something that required constant justification. This is what we are going to look at today. Not the apology as a social habit, but the apology as a psychological one. What it actually means when someone cannot stop saying sorry, what it is protecting against, what it learned to do, and what it costs. Let us start with what an apology is supposed to be. In its healthy form, an apology is a repair. Something happened, a genuine wrong was done, or a mistake was made, or harm was caused, and the apology is the acknowledgement of that. It says, "I see what happened, I understand my part in it, and I am sorry for the impact it had on you." A healthy apology is specific. It is offered once. It does not grovel or spiral. And after it is offered, it is done. The person who made it can move on without continuing to carry the weight of the thing they apologized for. That is not what chronic apologizing looks like. Chronic apologizing is not specific. It is not offered once. It does not follow a genuine wrong. It is a blanket, preemptive, reflexive offering made not because something bad happened, but because something bad might happen, because your presence might be too much, because your need might be inconvenient, because your opinion might cause friction, and the friction might cause a reaction, and the reaction might be worse than anything the apology costs you. So you apologize first. You smooth the ground before you even begin to walk on it. You make yourself smaller before anyone has asked you to. Psychologists describe this pattern through several frameworks. One of the most useful is the concept of a negative self-schema, which is a deeply held belief about the self that operates below conscious awareness and organizes the way a person processes experience. For the chronic apologizer, the core belief is almost always a version of the same thing. My presence is a problem. My needs are too much. My opinions, feelings, and desires are an imposition on other people, and I need to manage that imposition before it creates consequences I cannot control. That belief did not arrive in adulthood. Beliefs that operate at that level and at that speed are almost never constructed consciously. They are absorbed. They are built slowly, through repeated experience, in environments where certain messages about the self were delivered consistently enough that the nervous system eventually stopped questioning them and simply accepted them as fact. Think about what it would take for a child to develop this belief. Not as a passing thought, but as a foundational operating assumption. The child would need to have been in an environment where their needs were consistently treated as inconvenient, where their emotions were consistently met with impatience or withdrawal rather than warmth, where their presence was conditional, where love or approval was available, but only in certain configurations, only when the child was easy, quiet, agreeable, undemanding, where taking up space in an honest and full way produced a response that was painful enough that the child learned very efficiently that the safest thing to do was to preemptively reduce themselves. In those environments, the apology is not a social nicety, it is a survival strategy. I am sorry I exist so largely. I am sorry I need things. I am sorry for being difficult. I am sorry for being here. The apology is the child's way of managing the gap between what they are and what they have learned it is safe to be. It is an attempt to control the emotional response of the people around them before that response has a chance to arrive. If I apologize first, maybe the reaction will be smaller. If I make myself small enough, maybe no one will be irritated by my presence. If I smooth everything in advance, maybe today will be okay. The child who learns this survives. That is the thing to hold on to. They are not broken, and they are not weak. They are adaptive. They did exactly what children do when the environment requires it. They found the mechanism that kept the peace, and they practiced it until it was automatic. And then they grew up, and the mechanism came with them. Now, let us talk about what chronic apologizing costs in adult life. Because it is not small. The most obvious cost is relational. When you apologize for things that are not your fault, you are implicitly accepting responsibility for them. And that creates a distorted dynamic in your relationships. It trains the people around you to accept that distortion. Over time, in relationships with people who are not particularly careful, the chronic apologizer becomes the one who is always wrong. Not because they are, but because they have created a pattern that positions them that way. The apology becomes a kind of confession, and confessions have consequences. There is also the cost to self-perception. Every unnecessary apology reinforces the underlying belief. Every time you say sorry for existing, the belief that your existence requires apology gets a little stronger. It is a loop that feeds itself. The belief drives the apology confirms the belief, and the loop runs so fast and so automatically that most people are not even aware it is happening. They just know that they feel vaguely guilty most of the time, without being sure what they are guilty of. And then, there is the cost to your actual relationships in a different way. The people who love you, and who want to know the real you, cannot fully reach you through the apologetic version. The version that preemptively smooths and reduces and makes itself smaller is not actually you. It is a performance of you that was designed for a different audience. The audience of your childhood, the people who needed you to be easy. And when you perform that version for people who do not need you to be easy, who actually want to know what you think and feel and need, you are withholding yourself from people who would choose you, the full version of you. Without the apology in front of it, there is a particular version of this worth naming specifically. Some people who apologize constantly are not actually sorry at all. The apology has become so divorced from genuine remorse that it functions as something else entirely. It functions as a social tool for managing conflict, for making discomfort go away as fast as possible, for shutting down friction before it can escalate into something scarier. The apology is not an offering. It is a de-escalation strategy, and because it works, at least in the short term, at least in making the immediate tension subside, it gets used again and again, until the person is saying sorry for things they are actively not sorry for, have no reason to be sorry for, and are saying sorry purely because the alternative feels more dangerous than the dishonesty. This is worth sitting with, because if you recognize yourself in it, it means that somewhere in the pattern of your apologizing, you stopped being honest. Not from a desire to deceive, but from a very old learned preference for peace over truth, for the small manageable lie of "I am sorry" over the larger unpredictable risk of actually holding your ground. Now let us talk about what is underneath it, because underneath the apology, underneath the reflex, underneath the trained belief that your presence is a problem, there is almost always a very specific fear, not a vague anxiety, a specific one, the fear of the reaction. Not the fear of having done something wrong, the fear of what happens when someone reacts badly, the specific visceral dread of someone's anger or disappointment or withdrawal or coldness, the thing that the apology is designed to prevent. And the reason that fear is so powerful, the reason it operates at the level it operates at, is that at some point, probably very early, the reaction was something the child genuinely could not manage. An adult's anger was overwhelming. A parent's withdrawal was terrifying. A caregiver's disappointment was devastating in a way that felt existential because at that age it was existential. The approval of the adults around you was not just emotionally important, it was survival. So the fear is real. Or rather, it was real. It was calibrated to a very specific time and a very specific set of relationships where the stakes were genuinely that high. The problem is that the calibration has not updated. The nervous system that learned to fear the reaction of a particular adult in a particular environment is now running in a world full of different people in different relationships where the stakes are categorically different. And it cannot tell the difference. It feels the same. The colleague who might be mildly irritated and the parent whose anger was catastrophic produce the same physiological response, and the apology arrives for both of them. This is not a character flaw. This is neuroscience. The threat detection system does not evaluate each situation from scratch. It pattern matches. It looks for signals that resemble the original threat and fires accordingly. And when you grew up in an environment where other people's emotional reactions were genuinely threatening, any signal of potential displeasure from any person triggers the same system, the same urgency, the same need to make it stop before it starts. So what changes this? Not forcing yourself to stop apologizing. That approach treats the symptom rather than the source and tends to produce either more anxiety or a suppressed version of the same thing that comes out sideways. What changes it is working from the inside outward, starting with the belief. The belief is that your presence is a problem, that your needs are too much, that you require apology before you are entitled to take up space. And the way you change a belief is not by arguing with it directly. The way you change a belief is by accumulating evidence that contradicts it, slowly, repeatedly, in real experience. This means choosing, in small moments, to not apologize for things you are not sorry for and noticing what actually happens, which is usually nothing catastrophic. It means staying in the discomfort of holding your position without smoothing it away and discovering that the discomfort passes and the relationship survives. It means asking yourself, before the apology comes, whether you have actually done something wrong, and if the answer is no, pausing, just pausing, not to perform confidence you do not feel, but to give the honest assessment a chance to arrive before the reflex does. It also means, over time, examining the belief directly. Where did I learn that I was too much? Who was it that needed me to be smaller? And is that person here right now, in this moment, in this room, with this particular person who is waiting for me to finish my sentence? Because they are almost certainly not. The person who needed you to apologize for existing is almost certainly not in the room, but the apology is still arriving for them, still smoothing the ground for an audience that is no longer watching, still paying a toll at a gate that has long since been removed. You are allowed to stop paying it. Not all at once, not dramatically, not by swinging into a version of yourself that overcorrects and never acknowledges genuine wrongdoing, but slowly, by learning to feel the difference between the apology that is genuine and the apology that is old and automatic and costing you more than it is worth. By learning that I am not sorry is sometimes the most honest and the most respectful thing you can say to the other person and to yourself. If this video reached something in you that has been running quietly in the background of your life, you are exactly where this channel is built for. This is a space for the psychological patterns that shape the way we move through the world. The ones that feel so normal, we have stopped being able to see them. If you would like to keep exploring, subscribe and come back, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. What do you most commonly apologize for that you are not actually sorry for? You do not have to go into detail, even one word is enough. Thank you for watching.